All right, we got a busy week here on Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I'm Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist. He's Clarence E. Hill Jr., Dallas Cowboys savant and #1 UT follower and apologist. Clarence, you look dapper as always. I see you've gotten dressed for the occasion. What are we wearing? Valentino, Jimmy Choo? Who's the designer du jour?
It's a pullover, okay? It's a pullover, okay? It's a pullover. I'm just glad you're back. You don't have to sub George Teague in for you last time, and he did a wonderful job. And people love George Teague. I think they want me to bring him back.
I don't blame you. I don't blame them. George is the best. I love George Teague. One of the things I love as much as I love George Teague. You know who I love more, Clarence?
Me.
Window Nation.
Me.
Window Nation. You're second. Okay. Window Nation 1, Clarence 2, George Teague 3.
And your hair,
daughter and wife.
And where's your hair fall into this? I'm just trying to.
I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm getting a little worried about it. I have to find some product. I'm 50 now, so I have to do what I can to hold on to this because I remember I got an email back. This is back when I was in my mid 30s, and this reader, I'd seen a video. I think I had done it with Randy Galloway. He said, "You're losing your hair." I was very bothered by that. I'm like, of course, and I'm like, wow, why would you say that? It's horrible. Well, I'm 50 and I still got it, and now I'm in more preventative mode.
There's no such thing, and of course, Mac is freezing up. There would not be a show if Mac didn't freeze up. But my hairline is pretty tight. I don't know about you, but I'm still holding on. I got a little gray, but of course, Mac always freezes up. He has a dog coming. There's always something. Where's George Teague when I need him? Again, this is Clarence Hill. Mac's going to come back at some point, and we're going to talk about these Cowboys. Dak Prescott in the MVP running. Dak Prescott. A dad. Dak Prescott's a new dad. We're going to also talk about obviously Dak running for the MVP, but again, Dak being a dad, he's going to be a girl dad, and that was announced on Saturday. Mac is back, of course.
Back.
We would not have a show without Mac freezing up or something like that.
This is why I hate Wi-Fi. Give me something I can plug in. I'm tired of this wireless crap because it never always works. Okay, you said it. Dak Prescott is going to be a girl dad. You're a girl dad. I'm a girl dad.
Yes. Welcome to the club, Dak. Welcome to the club. We talked about this. He's very excited.
3 years old. He's 30. Is that right?
He's 30.
It's a good time to be a dad. It's probably a good time.
Yeah, I mean, he's 8 years in his career. We talked to him yesterday, and he's really excited about being a dad. He and his girlfriend, Sarah Jane, they clearly they've been knowing about it, and their family and friends have been knowing about it, but they made the announcement on social media because she was starting to show she was going to go to a wedding, and it's no, you can't hide it anymore. And they weren't really hiding it, but they were just, I was being smart about it, and he was trying to protect her from all the social media crazies and everything else. But they made a nice announcement, and he's happy about it and looking forward to being a girl dad. And the crazy thing about it is, he said he couldn't have handled this earlier in his career. But you're 8, he can handle. He can balance playing football and being a father.
I have a cousin of mine who recently welcomed a daughter. And I told him, I said, one of the things about being a dad that no one prepares you for, and you can probably relate to this, probably not to the letter, but I would tell any expecting parent, especially a dad, is that, you see all the pictures and the cards and the movies and all this stuff. Nobody tells you how hard those few first months are. You're not sleeping, especially if you don't have any help from parents or people who've been down that road before. Nobody tells you how hard it is. And especially if you're older like he is, hopefully he has somebody in his support system, which I'm sure he does.
Well,
no longer has his mom.
Well, first of all, Dak has a lot of money. They have a lot of money to pay for help to come and do some of those things that we didn't have the money to do. But I would say this because people always talk about the sleepless nights early on, and I would say this, that I think that those are the easiest times of being a parent because at least you're in control. You're in control. You're not in control when they get older, when they got events, and especially when you got more than one, and you got somebody has a soccer and gymnastics and all going on at the same time, and you're running and you got work and you're running around like your head's cut off, and then they have mouths. See, right now the baby don't have a mouth. Okay, baby can't talk back. Okay,
Well, they can, but it's cute.
Okay, well, yes, it's all cute.
It's cute. It's
But when they
adorable.
get older, they start doing this here.
Right.
It's
Yep.
a whole nother level. Okay?
When their vocal cords and their voice drops, then it's not funny anymore, right? Then it's good. Shut your mouth. Like this isn't
No.
cute and adorable. But when they're 6 and 5, then it's quite adorable. But yeah, I've had that conversation with people. They're convinced that the early days are actually easier than the later days. But I think, but you're right. Whatever problem he's got, he can swat that with $10,000 the way most
Right.
people can't. But it does lead us into something else about Dak Prescott is that, we're 11 games into the season. Is Dak Prescott an MVP? Let me give you the numbers. Cowboys are 8-3. He's thrown for 2,935 yards. That's seventh amongst NFL passers. He ranks fourth in yards per completion. This is a big stat. 7.9 yards. That's a big number. He ranks second in completion percentage, 70% completion percentage of his passes. He has 23 touchdowns. That ranks second. His overall rating is 107.4. That's second. And he has only 6 interceptions, which is way, way down the list. Clarence, are you leaving me? Oh, good.
No, I'm not leaving you. My computer is about to shut down because I didn't plug it up. And so I'm just trying to plug my computer up right quick.
You're full a lot of talk here for giving me crap about my technical problems. Clarence, obviously we've got a lot of games to go, 6 games left, and a million things are going to change in these last 6-7 weeks of the regular season. Dak Prescott, is he right?
I think he's right in the middle of certainly I think he's right in the middle of the race for the MVP, and he should be. I mean, you look at his number, you can't deny the number. I think Mac is frozen again, but definitely it is a perfect time because I'm back. But you cannot deny what he's done, and he's listed by Pro Football Focus as a number 1 ranked quarterback, number 1 graded quarterback in the NFL, and he's on a hot streak like nobody's business. And we asked him earlier this week about why it's always so, Mac. Just chill for a second.
I apologize.
But we asked him yesterday about his hot streak, and right on cue, it's just his dad's strength. Why are you playing so well? Dad's strength. He's a new dad, which is greatness because you would think with all this stuff going on with having a baby and dealing with a first-time mom, being a first-time dad, and all the other stuff, and he's playing the best football of his career. He's playing out of his mind. That Jerry Jones said Tuesday morning on his show that this is the best he's ever seen Dak, and he gives Mike McCarthy credit. I give a lot of credit for that. But Dak is on a heater right now. He's in the zone. It looks like everything is easy for him. It looks like the way he's running the ball, but throwing the ball, making the right decisions. And it's interesting to me, and we'll talk further when we get into Mike McCarthy later on in the show. But for him to be doing this early in a new offense, after being in the Kellen Moore offense, just tells you the work they put in the offseason and how much he understands the game, understands the system. That's seemingly perfect for him.
It's worth mentioning that when Dak Prescott came off of his broken ankle in 2001, the first 6 weeks of that regular season, he was phenomenal. He's the best I'd ever seen him play. I think the best he had ever played. Then he injured his calf on the last throw in the win at New England. Came back, and he wasn't the same. He wasn't the same. He was still pretty good, but not nearly at that level. And now I think for Dak, especially with the games coming up, which we'll hit on later, is that can he sustain this? Maybe not to the same clip, but in the same neighborhood. And if he can sustain it in that same neighborhood, then I think absolutely he's going to be an MVP candidate. Doesn't mean he's going to win it, but he'll be a candidate. And I think if you're a finalist in these situations,
let's be honest about it. Let's be honest. And I wrote a column last week. I said, Dak is playing the MVP level. Well, we don't need to discuss it right now because you know what? Dak plays for the Cowboys, okay? And if the Cowboys take care of business, and we're going to talk about the next 5 games, he'll be in the conversation. We don't have to campaign for him. If he takes care of it, if he continues to play as he's playing over the next 5 games, then he'll be in the conversation. He may, and if they win all these games, he'll certainly win it. There's no question about it. If he continues, but that discussion is one that's going to be continued over the next 5 weeks.
Well, one person who is certainly going to be in the discussion for at least a Pro Bowl, maybe even an All-Pro, is a player that we did not expect this when they drafted him in the 5th round last year. That is the magical year by cornerback DaRon Bland. In the Cowboys' blowout win against Washington on Thanksgiving Day, he returned his 5th interception for a touchdown this season. That breaks an NFL record. That's just an unheard of mark. I mean, you've got top players in the NFL, combinations of players in the NFL on offense who don't have 5 interceptions combined.
And 5 touchdowns.
For touchdowns. He has 7 interceptions this season, 5 returned for scores. And as much as we couldn't believe the heater that Trayvon Diggs was on a couple of years ago when he was intercepting everything, what DaRon Bland has done this season so far through 11 games is maybe more impressive. Because
the 5 touchdowns it just puts it on another level.
Well, you mentioned it last night during the Monday night game between Chicago and Minnesota. A wretched game, by the way. Chicago's defensive back dropped an interception, and Minnesota quarterback Josh Dobbs was determined to throw as many interceptions as possible. And I can't remember who the Chicago DB was, but he dropped it. And you mentioned on Twitter.
Jalen Johnson, yes.
Jalen Johnson dropped it.
Yeah.
We forget, and we've taken for granted, that DaRon Bland is catching all these things because most quarterbacks, as good and as talented as they are, they're on defense usually for a reason. And one of them is somebody at some point put them on the defensive side of the ball because maybe their hands weren't as good as need be to be on offense. And DaRon Bland is picking off passes and catching balls like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is,
right,
which one's more impressive? What Trayvon Diggs did 2 years ago when he intercepted 11, 12 passes and was a genuine threat. That side of the field was a concern. Or what DaRon has done this season to return 5 of 7 interceptions for scores.
Well, it has to be Bland. I mean, because taking him to the house scoring is just on a whole nother level. And again, it's not easy to do. It's one thing to intercept the ball. It's another thing to take it to the house and score. So to me, it's so magical what he's doing that you can't deny that. I have a bigger question for you because there's a lot of talk about DaRon Bland going for Defensive Player of the Year. And there was one Micah Parsons who's runner-up the past 2 years, who's came into the league as a favorite, who's still, to me, the best player on the Cowboys defense. And as great as DaRon Bland has been, I don't think any of his interceptions have been a difference in games. They've been part of onslaughts. The Cowboys going on a heater, and it's part of an onslaught. And you can't deny the numbers, and you can't deny how special it is. But to me, Michael Parsons is still the best player on this team, best player on this defense, and the most difference-making player on this defense. But when it's time to vote for Defensive Player of the Year, who do you go with? You go with a Michael Parsons, or you go with a DaRon Bland? Because
let me ask you this.
Numbers are going to be so hard to deny.
Well, have you voted for? I've never voted for. I voted for baseball awards. I voted for hockey awards, some college things. I've never participated, and I'm not even sure what the procedures are, like who votes. I've never voted with NFL season-ending awards, so I don't know what that process is like. I mean, who votes for that, Clarence? I don't know.
Well, the AP has.
Have you done it before?
They don't do every writer. They do one writer from the market. I know for a long time, Stream was person from our market that did the voting. So I don't know what the criteria is. I just know that I was talking to Micah yesterday, and he was like, man, he wanted the award. He thought he was going to be competing with Trayvon Diggs for the award, and DaRon Bland is kind of a dark horse that's coming out of nowhere. That's coming out the outside. And he said, his numbers, you have to get behind DaRon Bland. But I also know that right now he's Michael Parsons like the 5th or 6th in sacks. He's only 2.5 away from the lead. If he takes the lead and leads the league in sacks by the end of the season, Michael Parsons is going to be Defensive Player of the Year.
If the Cowboys win 11 or 12 games, like to me, I know this isn't going to be popular with Cowboys fans. What Jalen Carter is doing in Philadelphia needs to be in the conversation. That is a beast of a player. And I don't know.
He'll get some postseason awards. I don't know if he's going to Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, their defense is not well. I mean, he's playing well. I mean, there's no question about that.
Well, I'm trying to think of dominant defensive players off of really good teams right now. And because whether we want to admit it or not, one of the frustrating things about voting for some of these awards is that we see numbers. We fall for numbers. We're like, oh, okay, well, this guy's got.
I just don't think they'll give it to a rookie.
No, they probably won't. But I'm trying to think of who's going to take away votes from Micah, who's going to take away votes from whomever. Like,
well, first of all, Mike and Bland probably will split votes as it goes.
There you go.
But I mean, you got T.J. Watt, you got our favorite Aggie in Cleveland, who's having a phenomenal
Miles
year.
Garrett's been a beast.
So he's he I think has been the leader in the clubhouse since the start of the season. So
I think you're right. I think what Miles Garrett is doing, and Cleveland's winning. And if they get
their defense is very dominant. I mean, the reason is because they had a mess on offense, mess at quarterback. They're where they are winning because of how great that defense is, not great Miles Garrett is playing.
And I don't know how you block that guy. I mean, he's just such a physical freak, and he really knows how to play. Okay, we've got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime, specifically a certain head coach. But first, I want to take a word to hear from our good friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no interest payments for 60 months, 5 full years. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you very much, Window Nation. As always, back here on Cowboys Overtime, StarTelegram.com. Clarence Hill, Mac Engel. Maybe my Wi-Fi signal will hold up the second half. Okay, this is Clarence's topic. He wants to give Mike McCarthy credit. This is also the same guy who wants to give Wade Phillips credit. That's a good one. That one's going on the gravestone, Clarence.
You're such a hater.
Realist.
Wade went 13-3. How many Cowboys coaches went 13-3?
He'd tell you.
Name them.
He would tell you. He would
name
tell
them.
you.
It's
so weird to me. All these coaches walk around with their chest stuck out and I'm a tough guy, and they can be some of the most insecure people I've ever met. But you bring up a good point. Mike McCarthy went into last season as a lame duck coach. I didn't get that, but he did. Then this season was going to be Sean Payton, because Sean Payton's now in Denver, and that thing looks pretty average. Mike McCarthy, since 2021, 12-5 last season. 8-3 this season. Overall record with Cowboys 61-38. 61-38. I think the record speaks for itself. You've got to give him a lot of credit. You have to give him a lot of credit. You have to give Will McClay a lot of credit. You've got to give Jerry and Steven a lot of credit. The Cowboys consistently, I said this since really about 2007. You can go back to 6. They've been pretty good. They just haven't done anything in January. And that's the killer, and that is the measuring stick. But I think you're right. And the one thing Mike has done that I give him a lot of credit for, Jason Garrett did it, Jimmy did it, Bill did it. Those are the coaches who did it. They've given the Cowboys an identity and a definite method on how they want their players to look and what fits for them. And it works. So I don't know how anybody could do anything other than look at Mike McCarthy's body of work here with the Cowboys and say, job well done.
Yes, and I hear you in saying that, but I don't know if people do give him credit. And especially the 12-5 seasons, back-to-back 12-5 seasons, he's won more games the past 3 seasons than any coach in the NFL except for Andy Reid in Kansas City. But to win 12 games last year and go 4-1 after starting quarterback, we're seeing how when you lose your starting quarterback, look at the Jets and the other team, it doesn't always go well.
The Bengals are dead.
But
go down the list.
He got a lot of guff coming out of Green Bay when everybody acted like it was his fault. He was the empty headset, right? Like Aaron Rodgers was doing everything by himself, and then, even though this guy has a history of being a quarterback guru, offensive coordinator back to the New Orleans days when they were putting up points with Joe Horn, grooming, not grooming, but working with Joe Montana, going back to Kansas City, but certainly Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. The guy knows offense. And I remember when he fired Kellen Moore, and people were acting like Kellen Moore was a better offensive coordinator, had a better track record as offensive coordinator than Mike McCarthy, because he gave it up for the last 3 years because Jerry Jones wanted Kellen Moore to stay here. But to me, the indictment on Kellen Moore has been the Cowboys players. From Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb, they say they understand what they're supposed to do. They understand this offense. They understand the concepts. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do more than they've ever had. To me, that's a backhanded indictment of them not knowing that under Kellen Moore.
Do you think Kellen Moore was a victim of just trying to be too cute?
I don't know. You know, you could say a lot of things about it. What happened, and certainly he's had some success, but things aren't going swimmingly with the Chargers as well. And I think sometimes he can be too complicated. Mike, the thing I like about Mike is that he really doesn't have an ego. He lets Dan run the defense. He learned how to deal with Jerry and all his meddling. And right now he just wants to win. And you know, I know he came in. It's funny because, you know, I don't want to be the number one offense. I just want to run the ball and protect my defense. Well, they're back to being the number one offense.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think there is we can argue and nitpick the particulars, but I mean, Clarence, for the most part, this season now looks kind of like the previous two seasons.
Cowboys you got to get it done in the playoffs. But I think there's a different how they're doing it. Dak is playing the best he's ever played. Again,
Dak Prescott, hang on. Dak Prescott 2 years ago in those first 6-7 games, he was on it. No one's saying anything about Kellen Moore. And then he hurt his calf.
He had Zeke and
butt.
All of that.
So I think it's a testament and a credit to everybody. Again, they're everybody. Well, they haven't beaten anybody. We'll talk about that here in a second. There's nothing they can do about the schedule. You play who you play. If their starting quarterback happens to be hurt, well, just go out and beat them. And other than really one game, there's one game that I look back and there are 3 losses: Arizona, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. The only one that doesn't fit at all is Arizona. I mean, Arizona's terrible. And the quarterback who beat them that day, they cut, and now he's in Minnesota and looks to be kind of average. But by and large, they're 8-3 for a reason. They're really good, and they're going to. And now we get to see who they are, because coming up, beginning on Thursday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, the Cowboys will be in their hardest stretch of the season, where they will play 5 teams in a row that have basically winning records. Seattle comes in on Thursday night with a 6-5 record. Then the Cowboys host Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the best team in the NFL right now at 10-1. The Cowboys go to Buffalo. Buffalo is very hard to read. They're 6-6. They lost in overtime on Sunday in Philly, a really exciting game. Then the Cowboys go on the road again to play a very dynamic Miami team. The Fish are 8-3. Then they come back and they host Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions, and they're 8-3. And then the Cowboys finish up the regular season on the road against a bad Washington team, which is 4-8, and a team the Cowboys just trashed 45-10 in front of Dolly Parton on Thanksgiving. Clarence, of these 5 games, Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, what record should we expect the Cowboys to get to prove that this 8-3 record isn't just because they beat up on a bunch of Carolina Panthers?
I think they need to go 3-2.
3-2, not 4-1?
No, I mean,
okay.
It's
okay, that's fine. That's your answer. That's good.
I mean, I think they need to go 3-2. I mean, if 4-1 is, I mean, they go 4-1, they're going to finish this. You know, that's going to be the only loss the rest of the year. I mean, they're going to.
Yeah, 4-1. No, I'm looking at this record, and 4-1. I mean, they should beat Seattle.
Yeah, they should be Seattle. I think they'll be Philly. I mean, they play so well at home.
I think you're right. I think
going to Buffalo in 1 degree temperature,
So so
at Miami,
you and I've got them beating Seattle and Philadelphia. Now you go at Buffalo. That's not going to be fun. Miami's no joke. And then Detroit's pretty good and it's home. So you and I think we probably agree they'll win out at home and they'll lose the 2 road games. Is that what you think?
I think so. I think so. And again, we don't know what to make of Buffalo and what they're going to be. And of course, everybody's going to move the goalposts because as soon as they beat Seattle doesn't have a winning record. They're 6-6. Then Buffalo's not a team with a winning record. We're going to move the goalposts anyway, as we all do. And even if they beat Philly, they got to do it in the playoffs. But, this is a measuring stick. Even Michael Parsons talked about it. It's a chance to prove themselves. They're going to have to prove it again. But, as much confidence as they've gained over the last 6 games and how they played, just think of the confidence boost they will have going to the playoffs if they come out of the next 5 games 3-2 or even 4-1 or even 5-0.
I think you're right. 5-0 would be heavy.
Oh my God!
The one that concerns me because I can't figure them out, and Buffalo has suffered major losses on defense to their secondary, and their offense is kind of a mess. Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs is kind of it's off again, on again. They should have won the game in Philly, but they didn't. And that's what sometimes happens in those seasons. But they've got 6 games to get their act in order. I think Detroit's pretty good. They're a lot better than I thought. They've proven what people predicted about them before the season. They've lived up to their credit. All right, so we are going to move now to the other level of football. We're going to go down to the college game, where Texas has made it to the final Big 12 championship game in their history. Texas will play Oklahoma State on Saturday at 11 o'clock at AT&T Stadium, which begs the question, should Texas be in the college football playoffs? I know this is the last year of a 4-team field. Don't think TCU is going to make it back. Yeah. So right now, this is what the rankings look like before going into the college football's final week of the regular season, kind of, where they play the conference championship games. Georgia is easily an undisputed number 1, 12-0. Michigan comes in at second, 12-0. Washington, 12-0. Florida State, 12-0. Oregon is 5th at 11-1. Ohio State catches every benefit of the doubt known to man. 11-1 is 6th, and Clarence's Texas Longhorns are 7 at 11-1. So
and Alabama, and you can't leave out Alabama because they're 8th.
They're 8th. Alabama pulled off a miracle to win at Auburn on Saturday. They're 8th. They have 1 loss. Their loss was to Texas. So Georgia will play Alabama in the SEC championship game. If Georgia wins, they're in. Michigan will play Iowa in the Big 10 championship game. If Michigan wins, they're in. Washington plays, I think, Oregon.
They play Oregon.
So they will play Oregon in their final season of the Pac-12. If Washington wins, they're in. Florida State is in the ACC championship game. Whom they play does not matter.
They play Louisville.
Who cares? So Florida State. So a lot of things, and obviously Texas has to beat Oklahoma State. They probably will. Clarence, a lot of things are going to happen for Texas to get in. And I don't see it happening.
You just need Florida State, who doesn't have the quarterback, to lose.
So of those 4 teams,
if Florida State loses,
hang on, if Washington loses to Oregon, Oregon's going to be ahead of Texas.
I don't know that. I don't know that.
But hang on.
They shouldn't be.
Well, whatever. Arguing what should and shouldn't be with the College Football Playoff Committee is a fool's errand. It's a waste of time. I agree with you. I mean, UT did everything it was supposed to do, and they rolled Bama at Tuscaloosa.
Right. Oregon does not have a win that impressive.
Pardon?
Oregon would not have a win that impressive. And
No,
Oregon, in common opponents, Oregon squeaked by Texas Tech 38-30. And they got
oh my God! And Texas destroyed my preseason Big 12.
Yeah, well, we're not.
Winner. That one worked out.
You and Brett Yormark.
Unfortunately for me, you won't remind me about that until only about my deathbed. Like, hey, you told me Tech was going to win it all in 2023. You idiot!
That's because you're
going to take
Texas.
A pillow and smother me with it. Oh wait, no, that's my wife. Clarence, I don't see a scenario.
So tell me this. This is my thing, because I've been doing this little crowd surfing on Twitter. So if Alabama beats Georgia,
okay,
SEC champion should go. That means Georgia's left out, and Texas should go. I mean, I think the conference championship games are de facto first round of the playoffs.
Oh, they are.
Seen
they
that
are
game.
This year. They are.
We've seen that game.
Yep.
So you shouldn't take 2 SEC teams over a Big 12 champion, even though Georgia's only lost 1 game in 2 years. The previous years don't matter.
You're right.
What only matters is this year.
Okay, so I want to go over this real quick. Like I'm trying to find the point spreads. So right now, Washington is a 9.5-point favorite against Oregon. Pretty big one. And Oregon should have beaten Washington early this season. Dan Lemon totally screwed that one up. Washington won. Is Washington going to beat Oregon?
Washington not played well of late. That's going to be.
I agree, but do you think Washington will beat Oregon?
No, I don't think so this time. I think Oregon wins this
Washington. That means Washington's out. Is Florida State going to beat Louisville? Florida State's only a 2.5-point favorite. Like you said, their quarterback is out. They barely got by a bad Florida team.
I think Louisville wins that game.
So Florida State is out. Michigan will beat Iowa, yes?
They should, you know. I mean, it might be a 0-0 game or 3-0 game. I mean, you know,
punting should be explosive.
yeah.
Michigan's good. I mean, they might lose. I mean, they've done what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So Michigan is in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now you've got Michigan.
But the problem with Michigan is as soon as they get in, the NCAA is going to take it away because, you know, Jim Harbaugh is cheating.
They're not taking away anything. And all you have to do, they're not going to say Michigan's going to be in. Okay, so you've got Michigan in. Right now, Georgia, let me find the Georgia game. Georgia is a 5.5-point favorite against Alabama. Who do you got winning?
I think Georgia wins.
So
I think Alabama struggled against Auburn. I know it was the Iron Bowl and everything else, but I think Georgia wins. I mean, obviously, I'm rooting for Alabama to win and knock them out and cause chaos. But we'll see. I think Texas' best hope is certainly for Louisville to win, to beat Florida State, and certainly for Oregon to beat Washington. And then let's have some conversations.
So if Texas plays Oklahoma State close, it's a 14.5-point line. So nobody thinks it, and it shouldn't be close. It shouldn't. How Oklahoma State defeated Oklahoma to prevent a rematch of the of the Red River shootout or whatever, I'll never know, because there's been no more wildly erratic team this season in the Big 12 than Oklahoma State. But they did it. They came back, and then they won against BYU, and they should have blown that game. But now they're in the Big 12 championship game, and I have no idea which Oklahoma State team is going to show up, because they demonstrated they're good enough to beat Oklahoma, and then they're good at then they go out and blow it against Central Florida, whomever. I don't know who the hell they lost to, but anyways, it's a 3-loss team, and you've got to think
Gundy has had a lot of success against Texas of late.
He has. So if let's say Texas wins, let's say it's a 6-point margin. It's a fourth quarter game, right? All these things happen that you just said. Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Washington loses, Florida State loses. Both of those teams are out. There's no way a one-loss Washington team is going to get in. And does Oregon make the jump into the top 4?
Well, that's the question. Does Oregon make the jump? But from a TV standpoint, from an interest standpoint, you want a 12-1 Texas team over Oregon, don't you? Where's Mac Brown to lobby for the Orange Bowl over Cal again? Steve Sarkisian has to do his best Mac Brown, impression and start lobbying.
We do have the Buckeyed problem in Columbus, and that is Brutus, who always seemed to get the benefit of the doubt in the college football playoff Final Four. They caught it in 2014, famously. They took the spot from TCU. They ended up winning the national title, which I think, I will still maintain TCU could have beaten two. I think they could have beaten 2 of the playoff teams that year. They weren't going to beat Ohio State. They weren't going to beat Alabama. They could have beaten Florida State. They could have beaten Oregon, but they weren't going to beat the other ones. This one, however, Ohio State checks in at 11-1. Now, the problem is they don't have another game.
Well, they're going to drop. That whole data point thing. Texas, these teams that play conference trying to get another data point, they're going to jump.
Yeah, but they get a data point, but sometimes that data point can work against you if they play close. And that's my concern for Texas. I would love.
As I said before, the Michigan-Ohio State game was a de facto playoff game. They lost that playoff game. Yep. There's no reason why they should get in. Same thing with Alabama and Georgia. It's a de facto playoff game.
So right now, this is what you've got. If this all plays out to the way you think, which is go with the chalk and the SEC championship game, Georgia beats Bama, there's UGA. Michigan outpunts Iowa, they're number 2. So Michigan is in the playoff for the 3rd consecutive year, just like Georgia. Washington is upset by Oregon, so Washington is out. Florida State is upset by Louisville. Florida State is out, and that would put, most likely, according to your logic, Oregon and Texas into the playoff, correct?
Oregon and Texas, yes.
Okay, we'll have fun with this. So Clarence is going with Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, UT. I'm going to go with Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Texas. I didn't think when you first threw this out last night on our topic of conversations with my trusty little notebook.
I'm glad you did homework. You did your homework.
Did my homework, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I couldn't foresee a scenario where Texas got in. Not because Texas was bad, just because of teams ahead of them.
Right.
But you made there's a compelling argument. There's always something that goes wrong and haywire in this final week that doesn't go according to plan. I still think Georgia's the best team. I mean, you got to give those guys credit. However they did it, they're the best team. But I think you're right. I think Texas in its final season in the Big 12, I think they're going to finish fourth and get in and then get crushed by future SEC opponent Texas.
Don't get crushed.
Pardon me, Georgia.
They're not getting crushed. Stop.
But the good news is it won't be 65-7. Okay, one last thing. You have been very good. I've been very, very good. You've been outstanding on your picks this season. You have 2 losses. I have 3 losses. Cowboys are 9.5-point favorites against the Seahawks on Thursday night, the Al Michaels Amazon Prime Jeff Bezos game. Shout out to Carissa Thompson, where facts don't really matter. 9.5-point favorite. Cowboys cover or Cowboys don't cover?
Are they at home? Are they at home?
Yes.
Are they at home? Are they at AT&T Stadium?
Yes.
Yes, on both. They cover and they win.
All right, Cowboys cover and they win. All right, so that is Thursday night. And then a week from this Sunday is the big game that we're all circling, and that is the Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles. Until then, let's check back next week. We'll do this again next week. I want to thank Clarence, our fearless producer, Candy Bolden, who's probably asleep by now. And as always, our favorite people at Window Nation. We've only got like a month, 28 days left till Christmas. Clarence's shopping is done. I haven't even started. If everything goes right, I won't even start. Thanks again for everybody for joining us here on Cowboys Overtime Thursday night. Cowboys, Seahawks. Till next week. See you then.